The Dom Life Podcast presents Real Talk,
a BDSM Back to Basics mini-series intended for listeners 18 and older.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Real Talk.
Back to Basics.
So first off, I want to apologize. We did miss an episode last week.
We have lives, and lives involve work and stress and sickness, and
Yes.
we just were unable to get out an episode last week for the midweek episode. We're just going to do a couple more of them, right?
Yeah, we've only got a couple more left. We're wrapping up our interviews on our major podcast episode that comes out on Sundays. So we only got a few left of these to do.
Yes, and this one, I get to take over.
Yep. Tonight we are going to talk about how to be a good submissive.
And Master Nick does not know how to be a good submissive.
I do not.
Now, do you think I'm a good submissive?
I think you are a great submissive.
Yay.
I've said it to you. I've said it to others. Hell, I think I've even said it on this podcast that I would not be the dominant that I am without the help of you. So
Yay.
you've brought me into this world. You showed me a whole new side of you, of how relationships work. You introduced me into the BDSM. I had no idea what it was prior to meeting you. I had a lot of kinks and fetishes.
I was going to say, it wasn't that you were vanilla.
I was not vanilla. I just couldn't find somebody that wasn't vanilla. So without you, there's no way in hell I would be where I'm at today.
We've spent a lot of episodes talking about how a dominant is responsible for their submissive.
Yes.
And I don't feel like we've given enough attention to the submissive side of that and
Right.
our responsibility to our dom. Because sometimes it's not about the contract, and sometimes it's not about being a yes, sir, or yes, ma'am, or yes, person. Sometimes it's about being real in the relationship.
Absolutely.
So we already know that in the grand scheme of things, the dominants basically have a full-time job in taking care and being aware
Yes.
of their submissive.
It is absolutely another full-time job.
Now, there are times when your dom needs you, okay? And
Yes.
you as a submissive, or me as a submissive, I have to figure out what that means.
Yeah. And you've got to keep in mind, if you are a submissive, you've got to understand your dominant is a person.
Yes.
And every person has rough patches. Every person gets stressed. Every person may get depressed, depending on what's going on outside of the relationship.
And
so that is something to keep in mind.
Some dominants may not realize that those things are impacting them. This past week, we recognized immediately that there
Yes.
was something wrong. But most of the time, a submissive follows their dominant's orders. We accept the tasks that you want done. We potentially get beat on, which is awesome.
Yes. That's always a good time.
And we give up control.
Yes.
There's a power exchange that we agree to within the relationship dynamics. So what makes a submissive, a good submissive, is very subjective, because what your needs are and what your desires are may not be what somebody else's
Correct.
are. And we've talked about you not necessarily wanting a full-time brat. You couldn't handle that kind of a dynamic.
I don't have that kind of energy.
Right. So we have figured out what's important in our world, and we suit each other with that. Now, it's also important that you don't just like your submissive as a submissive. Like, it's so nice that you're getting somebody who's agreeing to give
Right.
up this control. It's also important that you like your submissive as a person, what's underneath that submission.
And I feel that you have to. The only time I see that you wouldn't have to actually like the person outside of submissive is if it's only a dominant submissive relationship where you only meet for scenes or for that DS dynamic. If you are living a 24/7 with your wife, with your fiance, with your girlfriend,
Or with a regular, right.
that is where you have to acknowledge them as your submissive, but you have to, like you said, like them all the time, regardless.
Yes. And so in the DS relationship, we're still people.
Yes.
And we have the ups and downs, and we have a sick child, and we have all the things that take over whether our relationship is running smooth or not. These things are a part of our world. So our DS sometimes takes the back seat and sometimes comes to the front. And as a submissive, who is also the person that runs our household, it's a weird dynamic sometimes. So you were having a really rough patch, and what that means for a submissive is that my submissive needs, which weren't even in the BDSM realm, my submissive needs, the normal things I depend on in our interactions, were gone.
Yep.
You
Every bit
were
of it was.
focused inside of yourself, and you were repairing yourself from this hit you took. I, on the other hand, am sitting on the outside watching this, recognizing that you had this situation occur. You were unhappy, but I asked you, is there anything I can do? Nope, I don't think there's anything you can do.
Right.
And as a submissive, I typically allow you to lead.
And there was no leading
But
for a few days.
there was no leading, but there was also, in my mind, not a break in sight. I didn't know what was going to break this cycle that you had gone into. And so as you were submissive, I kept biting my tongue because I wanted you to have whatever time you needed to assess the situation, deal with the situation, let your brain stew on it and fix it. But I also felt like there's a limit to that time because it's not helping you anymore.
Right.
It in the beginning it might, but then it just felt like kind of like depression, like this, we need to break this cycle. So as a submissive, being a good submissive means I recognized the signs of what you were going through, and I had to figure out a way to address it with you. I was not getting my needs met, but my needs didn't even count. I just so depend on this world that we set up with you coming home, doing certain things. Our activities are pretty typically the same. And all of a sudden, you're not doing any of that. And I could see and feel inside of me how hurt you were, and I didn't know how to address it. So
Right.
I did not cause this situation. You did not cause this situation.
No,
but it was
outside of our relationship.
outside of our relationship, but it was impacting everything.
It was.
So I finally pulled up my big girl panties, and it was hard because I said, this might make you upset, but I just want you to be aware that you, as my dominant, have certain things that you always do.
Yep.
And those things aren't getting done, and it's okay that they're not getting done, but I feel like they're not getting done for the wrong reasons. If you take a hit and you've got to just reassess yourself, that's fine. But if it is outside of your relationship, then you shouldn't let it impact your relationship, your world, your household as much as it was.
Right.
And I had to be the good submissive and tell you that this is wrong on you, for the dominant that I see in you, the person that we deal with, the person that I know you are. You have every right in the world to be upset about this situation that is outside of our house and home. But once you bring it into our house and home, you're giving other people control over you, and that should never happen.
Right.
Because they are not as important. That situation is not as important as your home life. Your home life and your support is me and this house and our world. And suddenly it came crashing down. Not that it was going to stay there, but I don't know how easy, I know how easy it is to cycle into letting it go longer. Right. And
well, it was a serious hit that I took. It was very well unexpected. And it was a hit on what I strive to be as a person. And when you get smacked down from something that you live your life on and you strive to be the best at this.
Yes.
It sucked. I've been at rock bottom before. I know what rock bottom feels like. I've been there more than once. And it almost took me back to rock bottom.
But because it is not your partner, it is not your life, I feel like that needed to be broken. You cannot let somebody outside of our world have that kind of control over your emotions and feelings.
But it made me step back and question
I know
how I live my life and how I treat others and how I do things. And
well,
again,
what did you, when you did all those thinkings and thoughts, what did you come up with in your head? Are you that person?
No, I'm not. I'm the person that I push to be, and I feel I make a good representation of honesty, respect, integrity, commitment, all of that. Right.
Now, you don't ever, you always do what you have to do. I do too. We have a great life because we take our commitments very serious.
Yeah.
To whatever we do, we take them very serious. But in this situation, as you're submissive, I had to accept that you were unhappy. I had to provide a situation where I'm not judging you. I'm not judging you,
right.
But I'm telling you that that's not who you are. So let's not let that happen. And I had to stand up in a way that's very difficult for submissives to do.
Right.
Now, thankfully, you weren't out there wanting to swing a flogger at me or anything. You were in your own head.
I definitely knew better than to do any kind of scene or anything because, I could see myself wanting to take that frustration and that anger out on anybody that stood in front of me willing to take it. So
right. Well, at least we've broken that.
Yep.
You
give one hell of a pep talk.
Because you're an amazing person and you're my dominant and you're my oak in this world.
Right.
Like you're the thing that has the steady state person. And we have a whole life that is set up under the structure of DS. It may not be always followed, but in this situation, in order for me to be a good submissive, I had to be a bad submissive. I had to not submit. I had to talk to you and have a conversation. And thankfully, beneath it all, we respect and love each other. And you took it and you accepted that I cared.
Right. And even in that instant, I know you were saying, as a submissive, it was hard to do that. But honestly, I look at it as in that moment during that talk, I wasn't your dominant. You wasn't my submissive. That's where we went to. We're human beings. We're in a relationship. We're married. That is the approach that you took
right
on that.
I did say, though, I'm your
You
submissive.
did. You did say that.
And you're my dominant. But in this situation, I think we need to talk.
Yep.
And you were willing to listen,
I
which
was.
that's what we talk about, being a good dominant.
Yep.
You were willing to listen, hear me out. Maybe it didn't fix it immediately,
It didn't.
but you were able to.
It got me back over on the right track to where I could start. And I'm still not 100%,
Right.
but better than I was prior to the talk.
Right.
Which, I know this is a how to be a good submissive podcast, and we're probably going to go into 2 parts on this because we are getting close to end of time.
I think.
But I do want to take this moment because you see it on a lot of social media. You hear men talk about it. You hear women talk about it. Check on your people. Some people are fighting battles that you have no clue about. And I'm kind of getting way off subject
it's good.
here.
Go.
Because it isn't BDSM. But you hear it all the time. You ask a man, how's he doing? I'm fine.
Right.
And there is always a deeper story to that. I'm fine. So having somebody that cares for you, having somebody that recognizes that, and having somebody willing to put their big girl panties on. You wasn't wearing a dress, so you was able to put your big girl panties on and confront that person and do the pep talk and tell them what they need to hear to get back on track. I mean, that's huge.
It was huge.
And I know everybody goes through problems.
Yes.
Everybody gets stressed. Sometimes people reach the depression part. So
check in.
Check on your people, especially your partners.
Yes.
Set time aside to do nothing but talk. We talk about communication, how important it is in BDSM. It's more important in BDSM than I think it is any relationship. But you have to take time to sit down and talk and really get to understand your partner, your friend, what they're going through, and try to pick up on those signals of when something is off.
Right. I highly recommend to do it in a way that you're not coming in with a like something already set up in your head. It is just to sit down and talk, because it was needed.
Right.
And I'm happy that I was able to provide you the incentive to flip it. And we have a lot of friends out there who are going through cancer and who are going through various health issues or relationship issues. And you know what? A lot of times what happens is everybody gets on one side or the other, and the other person is now left alone.
Right.
So we don't want that in our world. We want people to be accepted.
Exactly.
And check on your people.
Absolutely. We'll be back next week, and we'll finish how to be a good submissive. Have a good night.